This training will cover an introduction to ethics. This training program is based on the RBT task list and is designed to meet the 40-hour training requirement for the RBT certification. The program is offered independent of the BACB. So to start, what is ethics? Ethics is a branch of philosophy, which is basically how we think about the world. Ethics specifically deals with what is good and bad, with moral duty and obligations. Morals are a term that is often used interchangeably with ethics. They are, however, not synonymous. Morals describe one's personal values, whereas ethics refers to moral principles regarding questions of morality. One's morals can align or misalign with what is deemed ethical. An example of one's morals could be, I choose to recycle because I care about the environment. The opposite could also be true for someone's morals or lack thereof. An ethical stance, however, could be, a company is not able to dispose of waste in a lake because it is illegal. There is an established moral principle, do not dump in the lake because it's bad, that the company must ethically abide by. Now, let's apply this information. Question. The personal belief that allowing someone who is 17 years old to drink alcohol is okay. Is this considered morals, ethics, or neither? A. This is an example of morals. B. This is an example of ethics. Or C. This is not an example of either. Now please pull up your homework sheet that looks like this, and in the question column, fill in the question, is this morals, ethics, or neither? I'll now give you some time to get this filled in. The answer to the previous question was A. This is an example of morals. As mentioned, this is a personal belief that is held. However, there are ethical guidelines that can be applied to this moral belief. For example, in the USA, it is illegal to allow minors under the age of 21 to drink. So although someone may hold the moral belief that someone who is 17 should be allowed to drink, ethically speaking, it would not be okay to purchase alcohol for a 17-year-old minor. Now, if you go to Germany, the drinking age there is 16. So you can hold the moral belief that someone who is 17 can drink alcohol, and ethically speaking, it would be okay to purchase alcohol for a 17-year-old. The opposite could also be true. You could be living in Germany and morally think that drinking is bad. But again, ethically speaking, a 17-year-old drinking alcohol in Germany is okay. On your homework sheet, please fill in the answer A. This is an example of morals. I'll give you some time to get that filled in. Ethical dilemmas are situations with two or more alternatives where neither option are preferable. The trolley car is an ethical dilemma. Would you sacrifice one person to save 5 people? We're now going to watch a short clip describing the trolley car dilemma.
Imagine you're watching a runaway trolley barreling down the tracks, straight towards 5 workers who can't escape. You happen to be standing next to a switch that will divert the trolley onto a second track. Here's the problem. That track has a worker on it too, but just one. What do? Do you sacrifice one person to save 5? This is the trolley problem, a version of an ethical dilemma that philosopher Philippa Foot devised in 1967. It's popular because it forces us to think about how to choose when there are no good choices. Do we pick the action with the best outcome or stick to a moral code that prohibits causing someone's death? In one survey, about 90% of respondents said that it's okay to flip the switch, letting one worker die to save 5. And other studies, including a virtual reality simulation of the dilemma, have found similar results. These judgments are consistent with the philosophical principle of utilitarianism, which argues that the morally correct decision is the one that maximizes well-being for the greatest number of people. The 5 lives outweigh 1, even if achieving that outcome requires condemning someone to death. But people don't always take the utilitarian view, which we can see by changing the trolley problem a bit. This time, you're standing on a bridge over the track as the runaway trolley approaches. Now there's no second track, but there is a very large man on the bridge next to you. If you push him over, his body will stop the trolley, saving the 5 workers, but he'll die. To utilitarians, the decision is exactly the same. Lose 1 life to save 5. But in this case, only about 10% of people say that it's okay to throw the man onto the tracks. Our instincts tell us that deliberately causing someone's death is different than allowing them to die as collateral damage. It just feels wrong, for reasons that are hard to explain.
As previously mentioned, ethical dilemmas are situations where neither option is favorable or preferred. In this example, you have 2 options. Option 1, do nothing and 5 people will be hit and killed. Or option 2, switch the lever, saving 5 people, but 1 person will die because of your choice. Neither of these options are preferred, and either action or omission will cause one of the 2 options. There are several approaches to answering ethical dilemmas. The first approach is utilitarianism. This approach focuses on achieving the greatest benefit above all else. In contrast to this, a deontological approach is one that focuses on what is intrinsically right versus wrong. This approach is often associated with religious grounds, where there is a set of rules as to what is right or wrong, with little to no room for exceptions. Virtue ethics, however, is dependent upon the situation. It focuses on the motivations and intentions of the actors that are in the situation. And what is right or wrong depends on those motivations or intentions. Communitarianism is also dependent upon the situation. What is right or wrong is determined by what would benefit the community and has less focus on individual values. These are 4 approaches to ethics. However, there are more. We're now going to look at how each of the approaches would solve the trolley car example. So again, a trolley car is headed towards 5 people. If you pull the lever, you can divert the trolley car. However, now it will hit and kill 1 person, as opposed to hitting and killing 5. The utilitarianism approach would say, pull the lever. The greatest good here is saving 5 people, even if it means sacrificing 1. 5 lives saved outweighs the loss of that 1 life. A deontological approach would say that murder, in general, is bad, and pulling the lever would require you to essentially murder 1 person. So taking a deontological approach, you would do nothing. Both virtue and communitarianism approaches would depend on the situation. For virtue, you would look at the motivation of the person pulling the lever. Are they doing so maliciously? Or who is it that they are saving versus not saving? This would all matter in virtue ethics. Lastly, in communitarianism ethics, it would also be situational. The players in this would also matter. What would be the greatest benefit to the community? If it were the mayor of the town that would be hit if you pulled the lever, or if it was a child that is getting hit while all criminals are the 5 that are being saved, would all be important context to determine what is right versus what is wrong. Now, let's apply this information to a new ethical dilemma. Question: how would a utilitarian answer the following dilemma? You are in Nazi Germany where a Jewish family is hiding in your home. A soldier comes to the door asking if anyone is hiding. A. You would tell the soldier about the family. Lying is inherently wrong. B. You would tell the soldier about the family. There are more soldiers than family members. C. You don't tell the soldier. Do the greatest amount of good. Or D. Don't tell the soldier. Nazis are bad for the community. On your homework sheet, fill in the following question. How would a utilitarian answer the following dilemma? I'll now give you some time to get that filled in. The answer to the previous question was C. Don't tell the soldier to do the greatest amount of good. Here you have 2 options: telling the soldier about the family or not telling the soldier. By not telling, you produce the greatest amount of good by saving each of the lives of the family members. As mentioned before, a utilitarianism approach makes the decision that produces the greatest amount of good for all that are involved. In this situation, the greatest amount of good would be to save the lives of each of the family members while putting your 1 life at risk of being caught. On your homework sheet, please fill in the following answer. C. Don't tell the soldier, do the greatest amount of good. I'll now give you some time to get that filled in. A code of ethics are adopted by organizations to assist members in understanding the difference between right and wrong and in applying that understanding to their decisions. By adopting a code of ethics, you're able to take away the uncertainty that comes with ethical dilemmas. It sets out rules to follow so you don't have to make those difficult decisions on your own. Question: how can a code of ethics decrease the dilemmas associated with ethical issues? A. It tells you what is right and what is wrong. B. It takes away the decision-making process by giving guidelines to follow. C. It puts the decision in the hands of the organization as opposed to the individual. Or D. All of the above. On your homework sheet, fill in the following question. How can a code of ethics decrease the dilemmas associated with ethical issues? I'll now give you time to get that question filled in. The answer to the previous question was D, all of the above. A code of ethics explicitly states what it deems as ethical versus unethical, or right versus wrong. With those guidelines, when one is faced with an ethical dilemma, they can turn to the code of ethics to determine what is the correct actions to take. Therefore, the decision is now in the hands of the organization that has adopted the code, as opposed to the individual having to determine the correct actions to take by themselves. On your homework sheet, fill in the answer D, all of the above. I'll now give you some time to get that answer filled in. So how did we get here? To very briefly summarize, we'll start with what was considered behavior modification in the 1960s. There were little qualifications that were needed to call yourself a behavior modifier. People with developmental disabilities were subjected to horrible punishment as consequences, and little thought at the time was given to the side effects of the reinforcers that were being used. All in all, there was little to no regulation, and the science was in its infancy in terms of the applied setting. So moving on to the Sunland Training Center in Miami, Florida in 1972. It was deemed ground zero for an abuse investigation that later transformed applied behavior analysis. In this facility, a lack of monitoring led to the gradual escalation of punishment procedures into a full-fledged abuse of the residents in the facility. The investigation pulled together a 9-member team called the Blue Ribbon Committee. They then created strict recommendations that later led to the establishment of statewide and local peer review committees for those practicing behavior modification in the state of Florida. From there, the first annual Behavior Analytic Conference was born. The Florida Association for Behavior Analysis, or FABA, was started in 1981 with B.F. Skinner as their keynote speaker. The field was then transformed from here, where standards of research and ethics were set. FABA members adopted the Code of Ethics in 1988, and it was the first association to adopt a Code of Ethics. Now we have an adopted and frequently updated Code of Ethics as a part of the Behavior Analysis Credentialing Board, or the BACB, and a Code of Ethics for even registered behavior technicians to follow. The RBT Ethics Code describes the ethical requirements for both RBTs and RBT applicants. All RBTs and RBT applicants must agree to abide by this code. Because RBTs are not independent practitioners and must receive ongoing supervision of their practice, those who supervise RBTs must also be familiar with this code. This concludes the introductory PowerPoint on ethics. Please make sure to turn in your homework, and there is no quiz on the information that is in this PowerPoint. This concludes